Hello guys, welcome back to the Java tutorial series, and in this video I'm going to be talking about data types and variables. So first things first, what are variables? In simple words, variables are nothing but placeholders in the memory where you can store your data. Now that might seem a little confusing. So here I have a whiteboard where I will explain what is a variable. So the big box that I have here, since this is pointing out, is the RAM, that is the random access memory, or in short the memory. So since I told a variable is a placeholder in the memory, so these are placeholders that we have in the memory. So when we create a new variable, a placeholder like this is stored in the memory, and the variable can have any name. So if I want, I can write my program to store a variable name A. So now when I do that, the compiler automatically makes a new placeholder and stores that as a variable A. So if I create a variable A, say A, yes. So now I can place that variable inside that. Then I can create three more variables, A, B, and C. A, B, and C. Then I can just place them in my memory. So that's as just simple as that. You variable. So basically, in conclusion, what variables are? They are placeholders. This placeholder in the memory that allows you to store data and values in it. Now, now you might say, so variable. So if I want to assign a variable name, I can assign anything, right? But that's not true. There's a specific way of assigning variables. First, you cannot start a variable with a number. You can't just write one num. That is not accepted by the Java compiler. So variables you can't start with one, and variables you can't add so if you want, you can't add a minus or a plus or equal to or this type. You can't put, basically you can't put operators in your variable name, or else the Java compiler won't understand it. So this, you can't add those type of things. Instead you can add a dollar sign, you can add an at. Actually at also is not at all, like, not possible. So mm, that's one thing. And then if you want, you can add your num8 like this. You can do like that. And also one good practice is, if you have a variable which has like three words, instead of like say I want num1 storage. So if I just write num1 storage, it doesn't look neat. Okay, it doesn't look neat. So in an eye of a programmer, they'll be like, oh, this guy's he's not good at programming. So the best practice is to add underscore between each. So you're just separating them. So say I don't want storage, I can just remove the storage. If I want to store num1, I can just do it like that. Looks neat. And also one thing, if your another good practice is, when you're adding an underscore, it's good that the second after the underscore, whatever word you're typing is in uppercase. So say I have this num storage. Now that looks more neat. Yeah, that looks more neat. So that's one thing about variables. Now there's another keyword, called data type. Okay, so what data types are? So these are all kind of a helper to the variables. See, now the compiler is not as smart as you think. The compiler is not smart as you think, because you just assign a variable. You can't start immediately adding your word, character, or number. You can't just add that. The compiler is like, hey man, what are you telling me? So basically these data types are like, they help the compiler, so in such a way that if I want to store an integer value in that variable, I can use the integer data type. So when the compiler goes to that line of code, he realizes, oh, so this variable can only store integer types. So I can assign different data types to it. Now, what all different data types do we have? Now we have 6 data types. Okay, so to just write them all, we have first the short one, byte. Then we have short, we have int. Don't worry, I'm just writing these down. I'm going to go through each and every one of them. We have int, then we have char. So we have int char. Actually, char doesn't come in this order. So byte, short, int, long. Then we have float, then double, then last but not the least, char. And also there's another data type called string, that is nothing but an array of characters. So now it might sound confusing. What is an array? So instead of array, I'll say a bunch of characters forms a string. Now even that might sound a little confusing, but now I'll go through this. So what is byte? So these things, byte, short, int, long, float, double, these data types are used to store any number value. Okay, so byte, is 8 bits, so you can store only like very very short numbers up to just like 3-digit numbers. Now short is an extended version of byte, that is you can store more digit numbers, more than byte. So we have short, int, and long, which is more than int. Now these byte, short, int, long, they are to store numbers, that's right. But you can't store numbers with decimal point, like say 4.5, 2.8. You can't store them in these 4 data types. Now to store them, you have two data types called float and double. So these two are the data types used to store decimal numbers, decimal point numbers. Yeah. So that's one thing. Now say I don't want to store any number. I want to store a character, or like I want to store just a letter, or one big word, or one whole sentence. Now for just a letter, we have the data type char, just for a letter. But now say we want to store a big sentence or a small word. For all that, you can use a string. So now I'm going to show these all on my BlueJ editor. Now that we are on my BlueJ editor, we will create a new program file. So we'll just add the class name variables. So now, since now you guys remember what variables are, what data types are. So now I'm going to tell the syntax of how to write it. So string gs, these all might look confusing, but in the later videos I'm going to explain what these are in detail. But for now, basically I'm just going to show you the format. So for now, the beginners level, this thing you have to remember. Okay, in the when I come to the object oriented programming sector part, then I'm going to explain what these actually mean. But for now, if you're doing any program, you must always do it in this public static void main. So now the syntax for assigning a variable. So first we have to write the data type to tell data type. So do you want to store an integer in that variable, a decimal number in the variable, a character, or a big word or sentence? So to tell the compiler, you must include the data type first. So say I want to store the number 9. I can use int. Now I write the variable name where I want to store, where this in, like basically when I write the variable name, the compiler will store it as, okay, so this variable name is assigned for only integer values. So if I want, I can just write num and I end it here. Now I have assigned it. Now I created a variable. I'm going to assign a value to it. So since I told I want to assign the variable 9, so the number 9 or 8, I'm not sure, let's say 9. So I just write 9 num equals to 9, and you must add the semicolon after every line of code, so the compiler understands you have reached the end of the first line of code. So now I can just do this, but to make the code look more neater, I can just do this. So this is a little more neater. So for integer I can do this, then other ones, so byte, say num2. Since I told to add this, you can do that, you can do this, it's your wish. So for num2 I'll just say 5. So then we have short, then in that I will store say 14. Then we have int already done, long, so we have done long also. I mean we're doing long, so say num4. So long I can just type a big number. And also one more thing I can add into this is comments. So what are comments? So comments are like, so basically if you're showing this to a person who doesn't know about programming, so he just sees this line of code, he's like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? So he won't basically understand it. So to like for a guy who doesn't know about programming to understand it, the programmer who has created a program uses a thing called comment. So now I want to say that these are the data types and variables that are only going to store integer values, not with the decimal point. So I can just write a comment saying these will store only real numbers. Now you can see that it's highlighted in gray. So one thing about comment is the compiler, when you run this program, the compiler will just ignore the comment because it's of no use to the code. It's just helping a guy who's reading this understand the code. So to write a comment, there are multiple ways of writing, but the two important ones are single line comment and multi-line comment. So say I just want to write this will store only real numbers. It's a single line. I mean, it's not many lines. So to store a single line comment, we put the double forward slashes. Now you can see in the editor, it's highlighting gray. But say I want to store a comment that is like has multiple lines. So then I can just do this. So that and then that. Now I can store anything inside that. It's a multi-line. So I can say, hi, how are you? I am fine. Now you can see it's multi-line. It's still a comment, so it's not single line, but it's multi-line. So now we'll get just rid of this. So now we have a comment telling these will only store real numbers. Okay. And also one thing, if you add by mistake you add a space and then you write say on something, just don't worry. If there's a space, the the compiler will just ignore the space. Now why it's highlighting, it's not a statement, like I have not put any variable. So now I want to store decimal numbers. I can store them by adding int num, say 10 equals to 4.52. Now you don't, now say I want to store I can store another decimal with the float value, say 4.8. okay, and also there's one thing you'll get to know later after I compile my program. Oh, it's already showing. So first we'll add a comment. These will store only decimal values. Let's make it exact, decimal point values. So now we have that. Now it's showing an error, I'll come back to that. So now I'll make another like that. Actually, I'll just copy it. These will store characters and words slash sentences. Now you can see I had a slash here, but it's not going to. So whatever you write after that, if even though if I add another slash, it doesn't make a difference. So for characters, like I told, only for letters I have to use the char variable. So say char letter equals to and also one thing, if you're assigning a character value to a variable, you must always put it under single quotes. So so the Java compiler realizes that, oh, it's a character. So char letter A. Now I want to store a word. So for that I have to write string word. Now for character you store in single quotes, and for string you have to store it in double quotes. So say I want to store pizza, not pizza. So now I'm storing a word. Now I can also store a sentence. So I'll just write string sent in short for sentence. So again under double quotes. So I'll say, hi, I love coding. Okay, so I love coding. Put under that and done. So now I can store this also, nothing will happen. Now let me compile it, and ooh, I have found an error. Now what is the error saying? So in BlueJ, one good thing is you can just hover over that thing and it will tell you incompatible types, possible lossy conversion from double to float. So basically, one thing is if you're calculating some in like those decimal point values, it is mostly prefer to use decimal numbers, because when it comes to division or remainder, as you keep on dividing it, if it's a float variable and you keep on dividing it until it goes to decimals, at some point even though you try it in a calculator and you get a different answer from your program, yeah, that's how float happens. So it's highly recommended to use double. You can use float also, but to some extent your answer will not be the same as the calculator. So now it's showing this, oh no, incompatible. So now if that happens, you can just assign a capital F. So you're telling, so this number is a float. So even though you're just saying it here and it shows an error, you just add an F here. And for the same, if in D it doesn't show an error, but I can just add a D here and it doesn't show any error. See, let me compile it. Compile, no syntax error, but I mean doesn't look neat. For F, yes, you can do that. So now, and also one thing, the one thing I want to teach is how you print these values. Now I want to print all these values, but how do I print it? So you have to remember the statement system dot out dot print ln. Okay, and print ln, if you want to print a string, say hello world, I can do that. But say I just want to print, say, num2, so I don't need the strings. So if you're putting whatever you're putting within strings in system.out.println will print that string value. But if you're just putting a variable name, it will print the variable value. So there's two differences. One is, so we have two ways of doing it. One is system.out.println and system.out.print. Now the difference between these two, I mean, it's that's what it's saying there. You might, if you're not understanding it, it's fine. So println, what it does is, you're in your, say this is your first line of code. So what it will do is, so system.out.println, system does not exist. Oh, okay, yeah. So say your line, your compiler, like whatever your outputs line starts here. So now print num2. Now it will print whatever is inside the variable. So it will print 5 here, and since it's println, after printing 5, this cursor, the pink cursor, goes to the next line. So what you're printing next will go to the next line. But now if I put system.out.print, now it will print say it will print 5 here. Now num2, it will print 5 and it will go to the next line immediately. Now I'm printing system.out.print num3. It's showing error because you can't just type like that. So num3, say 14. Now what it will do is, in what it will show is, it will print 14 but the cursor will remain there. Unlike println, it won't go to the next line. So you're basically saying, println, so system.out.println, print my value and then go to the next line. So print line, print new, like println, print to the next line, print, uh, so it will print and the cursor will stay there. So that's how you print these things. So say I want to print these both, I can just copy this line of code and just change these values, say num10, I mean that's the only thing there, and num12. Now I want to print all these three. Actually we'll print the sentence and the char. Since it's showing no syntax errors, that means even though you print it, nothing will happen. So letter and send. Okay, so now I compile it. Now how to run your program in BlueJ. So after you're done compiling and it shows no syntax errors, nice. So that doesn't mean that means there's no syntax errors. So the code you have written is fine, but is it going to execute properly? That you'll realize after you run it. So you right click on the program that you're in, and you have void main. So you click this void main string args. You just leave it like that. Okay, so now it's printing the values 114.52, 4.4 point, and now you can see why is this here, why is the 2 here. That's the reason. That's how print works. So 5, 14, 4.5, the 4.5, it's not working. The cursor is still there. It prints 4.52, that is my double value, and then it will go to the next line, println. Then it will print here. Since this had the print only print, the cursor will remain there. Then it will print a. Since a had println, it will go to the next line. Hi, I love coding. And actually I missed out one more variable. So this is the variable is boolean type. So just write this comment. Now what is boolean data type? So boolean data type is like normal data types, but the only things you can store in that variable is true and false. Now why do you need to store true and false? In the upcoming videos you'll get to know about that. But remember, if you're assigning a boolean, if you're adding the boolean data type, you can only store true and false. So say that. Now let's say I create, say, So first, the data type name for boolean is, as usual, boolean. See, it's highlighting red, so it's the compiler is realizing it's a boolean. And string, why it's not highlighting in the upcoming videos, I will tell you. But string is also data type. But other ones, if it's a data type, it highlights. String, the exception, I'll tell it to you in the upcoming videos. So say boolean bool equals true, and if you want to assign true or false, your t doesn't have to be capital. So if you put t capital, and also Java compiler is case sensitive. So if like by mistake you write capital T instead of small t, see, it's not highlighting blue. So that's what, it's case sensitive. So I add bool 2. Now I will just add false to it. Now since you can see it's highlighting it, so then for these I will put system.out.println so it doesn't look messy enough. So in here, instead of writing letter, I will put bool and bool 2. Now I only want, since I've already displayed this and already discussed it, so now we can use multi-line comment here. Now it's a good place to use the multi-line comment. So as I told, you put a forward slash, the star. Now next, where you want to end that, say I want to end this multi-line right here. Then I end it with a star forward slash. Now you can see this whole thing is gray, telling it's a comment. So now I compile it, no syntax error, well enough. Now void main string args. Okay, I compiled it, I closed it. Okay, even though it's doing that, as you can see, it's print. Oh yeah, also why is it showing this even though it's a comment? So the reason why is the blue in the terminal window, it doesn't clear it. So if I just go to options and clear, or if I just press Ctrl K, it will clear. So now you won't see those numbers. So now if I do that, true and false, so it's not printing what's inside the comment. So it's recommended you clear it and then you exit the terminal window, or else it will show the same thing again and it will be messed up. So that's all about variables and data types. In the next video I will be, actually first let's remove this. So in the next video I will be talking about taking input value. So now we know this. So in the next video I'll be talking about how you can perform the different mathematical operators and all. I'll teach you that, and how to take input value. So thank you guys for watching my video. Peace out.